Hey guys, and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about how you can replace fascia like this. It's got dry rot on it. Thanks guys for watching. If you haven't already, please consider clicking on the subscribe button below and clicking on the bell icon to be notified when all of our videos do come out. So as you can tell, there's some pretty good dry rot in some of this fascia. It's a 2x8 and 1x2 fascia along with the flashing that's on top of it. So in order to get this stuff off, we're just going to use a hammer and maybe like a heavier, like a sledgehammer, as well as a crowbar, and then we're also going to use a Sawzall to get it off. Once it's off, we'll go ahead and measure new boards, paint them, and put them up using our pneumatic like nail gun.
So as you can tell, what I started with doing was using a hammer, trying to pound it off, and then in my crowbar to try and pry off the board. But what I ended up having to do was take my Sawzall to cut off the nails in between the eaves and the boards. So here I'm just using that pry bar to go ahead and pry off some of the old dry rot just to be ready to pull off the rest of the wood. So I found that the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and pull off the 1x3 using your crowbar first. That creates a space between the flashing and the 2x8, which makes it easier to pry off the 2x8 later. So now what I'm going to do is just cut the 2x8 into smaller sections, about 3 to 4 foot sections each. And that way I can pry up and over, and then I can use either a Dremel or an angle grinder to cut off the nails that are holding that 2x8 in if need be.
Okay, so now that we got all of the fascia and everything down off of the eaves, what we're going to do next is start putting together the wood. So it's basically going to be 2x8s and 1x3s. The 1x3s got to be slightly above the 2x8 by a half an inch, just so they fit into the slot that's in the eaves.
So one thing I learned how to use on this job specifically is a speed square. I highly recommend it for anyone. They're useful in many different jobs, including this one, and they're only like 10 bucks at your local store, and I have one below in the description. So once I got everything marked up, I'm going to hold it in place with my clamps so it holds that half-inch spacing above that 2x8. Then I'm going to turn it on its back and use 2-inch wood screws to secure it in place.
So after we get the 1x3 onto the 2x8, then we just have to miter out the 45-degree edges that'll go in the corners. If you have a table saw, that's actually ideal. I'm just using a compound miter saw, so I have to make 2 cuts, one on the top, one on the bottom, get them to match up. So after that, this length is actually pretty close to 24 feet. It's probably about 22 and a half, somewhere around there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get both boards ready with the ends, and then get them primed and painted. And then after I hang it, I can cut off a little bit as necessary. Okay, so I got everything put together. I used this advanced silicone 100% waterproof caulking, and I used it on all the screw holes where all the boards come together, and also between that 1x3 and the 2x8, just to help the weather seal on that, especially after it's painted. So I'm going to let that dry for half an hour to an hour, then have just the standard white Kills primer for exterior that I'll get on these, let that dry for a couple hours, do some paint, let that dry, and then I'll put it up. Okay, so now that the primer is dry, I got all sides coated. Make sure you get the back side too, because we're going to paint the back side to match the house. But now we got our exterior satin paint that matches the rest of the trim. So we're gonna go ahead and get at least the first coat on tonight on the outsides, and we'll get another coat done tomorrow, and then we'll put it up. Okay, so here's a quick tip on how to close your paint cans that I learned, because I used to get like paint everywhere when you smash the lids down and paint just splatters. So what I do is I will take a paper towel or a rag, something like that, lay it on top, and then you can hit it with your rubber mallet to get it closed. That way all your paint splatters onto the rag and not all over the place. First coat is on and it's looking pretty good. So we're gonna let that sit for a couple hours. We'll come back tonight when it's a little bit cooler, put on a second coat, and we're gonna let that sit till at least tomorrow, and then we'll put everything up. So it's getting dark, but there's rain that's gonna come tomorrow while I'm at work. So we wanna get the eaves hung tonight. So what that means is we're gonna hang them right now. So we have our two clamps that are on the sides there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hang the piece of boards basically from the clamps, and then we're gonna clamp them up into place, and then we're gonna use our pneumatic air gun to nail basically the boards into place and secure them. We'll come back after work tomorrow and paint them a second time, clean up, caulk between them, and all of that stuff. Okay, so really make sure you don't have any nails sticking up, because they will go right through your boot and into your foot. So thankfully I'm up on my shots, thanks to the Air Force. But yeah, still no fun. So let's continue. So how this is gonna work, I'm gonna lift the board up on my ladder, and once I'm up there, I'm gonna hang it on one of my clamps. Once it's supported by that clamp, I'll go to the other end, lift it up, and put the second clamp on the other end of the board. Once it's supported on both ends by those two clamps, I'll get it in place exactly where I want it, and then tighten the clamps down. Then I'll begin to secure the eaves to the roof with 3-inch nails in my pneumatic air gun. And then once you get to the edge, to the corners, you're going to take your clamps to make sure to get the fitting just perfect in that corner, and then you can take your pneumatic air gun and secure it in place. All right, so it has been a couple of days. We got our boards up late that night. I'm not sure what you're going to be able to see on the footage just because it was getting so dark, but we were able to hang it up using our clamps and get it up and then nail it in with our nail gun, which made it super easy. After we got that up, we went ahead and used some silicone caulking in between the boards and on the nail holes just to make sure it's nice and watertight. And then this morning we went up and did another coat of paint just to cover the silicone and all of the nail holes and everything, and I think it's looking pretty good. So all in all, I think the boards were about 60 bucks. Nails we already had, paint was 30, so probably about 100 bucks in a couple days worth of time, and man, it actually turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it, and yeah, so you can do it too. If you like any of the tools or anything that we used, any of the nail guns, any of that stuff, you can look below. There'll be links to each one of those things in the description. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it, and you have a good one. We hope you guys like this video here at Lacey Family Farms. If you would consider clicking on that subscribe button right down there below in the center of the screen, we would appreciate it a lot. You can also check out our most recent video over here on your left, as well as a video that they like for you right here on your right.